Oh boy, yet another hot take on slavery. Get ready. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Robbie Suave and Brianna Joy Gray on their show called Rising on the Hill TV, in which Robbie gave a hot take on slavery. Basically, he compared military conscription to American chattel slavery. Now, this is a pretty crazy take, but before we get to the video, let's back up a little bit to give some context. Now, I think most of us have seen Nikki Haley's take on the Civil War when she was asked, hey, what caused the Civil War? Now, there was a variety of factors, but the main factor, the overarching factor, in my humble opinion, and in the opinion of many others, was slavery. And she didn't mention slavery at all. So, of course, that went viral. It went all over the place. And there are quite a few discussions being had on some big platforms about what she said. Now, Robbie was mentioning Union soldiers who were conscripted and died in the Civil War. I'm not going to say in the fight to end slavery because that's not really what it was, although that was the result, but different story. I digress. Now, this is a crazy comparison, and before I go any further, let's go ahead and get into it. If you want to see the video in full, link as always will be in the description. If you're on IG, visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
I'm surprised you have this. It sounds, I mean, the North did you could say that was fine. They needed to do that, and this was necessary to end the institution of slavery, which is horrible. The hundreds of thousands of deaths, the invasion and conquest of the South, the burning of city after city, a scorched earth policy of totally destroying the Confederate armed forces, killing and capturing their leaders. That's fine. That's what we did.
Now, did that happen because they were trying to end slavery, or was that the result of the Confederates breaking away from the Union, and then the war was an effort to try and reunify? I'm trying to just figure out what was going on exactly.
We can't examine. I mean, I think it's fine to wonder if that was the greatest course of action or the ideal way to bring about the end of slavery, particularly because the North invented the draft and the purpose of doing it, which is, in my view, also a form of slavery, that then persisted for another 100 years. Forcing
her face, and you know what? Let's pause right here. Her face is the face of many people, black, white, or whatever. Why would you say this, Robbie? What are you doing? Are you trying to go viral? Because you understand, okay, before you speak, before you say things, you think about it for a minute. You think about how you're going to say it, where you're going to go. If you're going to speak for a long time, you're going to think about, okay, I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to end here, and then I'm going to get certain points out in the process. That's your thought process. Before you speak, that's your thought process. So what was the thought process here? That nobody was going to get offended? It wouldn't really be a hot take? You were not going to go viral? Or is it the exact opposite? Let's keep on going.
People to go die in warfare is the most objectionable thing I could possibly think of.
Weird. I think 400 years of chattel slavery having ritualized.
If the government can make you die, if they can make you die,
do you think slave owners can kill their slaves and didn't kill their slaves?
I'm saying this is a form of slavery. I'm not.
Okay. So I understand the point he's trying to make. I get it. I understand that if you were a conscript, you had no choice. You had to go fight, and you might get deleted. I understand that 100%. He's trying to say, well, hey, you were a slave. You had no choice either. You might get deleted too. So we're the same, right? We're brothers, right? No, not quite. But I'll let her give her take on it, and then I'm gonna come back.
I'm not saying slavery is not slavery.
You just said that the draft is the worst thing that you could think of, and we're having a conversation about chattel slavery.
You do not. If the government can make you go die on a foreign battlefield, you don't own yourself in any conceivable way. So that's why I don't romanticize the North's actions.
You have a right to get married if you're in a war? If you're drafted, you have a right to keep your own children, not have them literally sold away from you as property. You have a right to wages for your labor. You had a right to a GI Bill.
Inventing one kind of slavery is the right way to get...
Robbie, you can make your point without making a comparison between the draft and chattel slavery, which was a multi-generational pogrom against millions of Africans who were brought across the Atlantic and kept for hundreds of years without a single right in the land.
Very bad. Shouldn't have done any of it. Should not have enslaved people in the course of ending it.
Okay, so there you have it. That's Robbie Suave and Brianna Joy Gray on their show called Rising on the Hill TV. It's not an ad. I'm just letting you know where this show is. And there's a fuller version. There was a whole show they did. This is just one piece of it. It was a 20-minute show speaking about other issues. And again, the reason why this particular topic came about is because Nikki Haley talking about the Civil War and what caused it, and that has created a lot of conversation. Now, there's a lot I want to speak about here. I receive Robbie's point. I receive Robbie's point about the North, from what he says, the Union, I suppose, creating military conscription to try and fight the war. Well, to fight the war. A few things. First of all, it wasn't to end slavery, because if that was the case, then the North, or really the Union, would not have had slaves throughout the entire war. So I don't like that narrative being painted. I don't like anyone, the North or the South, trying to claim moral high ground. This was about states' rights, and neither side had a real issue with slavery, not enough to really put it into it, obviously, because, again, both sides had slaves throughout the entire war. Now, were there more slave states in the South than the North? Yes. But the North and the South both had slaves. And we're talking about Jim Crow, segregation, all of that happened in the North and the South. Really, it was more in the North because they didn't have that many black folks, and they wanted to keep black folks out. Remember I said when West Virginia became a state in 1863, during the war with slaves, they seceded from the Confederacy into the Union. Soldiers from Ohio came to West Virginia and said, hey, if your slaves escape and come to Ohio, we will bring them right back to you, because we do not allow fugitive slaves in Ohio. Okay, so there's no moral high ground here. But back to the whole point about military conscription and slavery. When you were drafted into the military, you were paid, number one, okay, and it was only military age men who were drafted. It wasn't men, women, children, mama, papa, like those who were enslaved. Anyway, you were paid unlike slaves. And if you didn't get deleted in war, you were able to come back. You had a pension. If you did get deleted, your family got a pension. They were compensated. And then you had the GI Bill. You could get education. You had all kinds of benefits. But a slave, what benefits? What benefit? I mean, you could only benefit from being able to pick up skills while enslaved, if you could pick up skills. Okay, if you were fortunate enough, and I say that word kind of tongue in cheek, but if you were able to have a quote unquote slave master that would allow you to do ironworking or something, some kind of really marketable skill aside from picking cotton, sharecropping. If you had that kind of skill, you might be able to kind of buy your freedom and finagle your way out of slavery, perhaps. Okay, if you didn't get deleted in the process of trying to buy your freedom, if you didn't get robbed, if that didn't happen, then you'd be good to go. But that's pretty much the only way during slavery. Again, if you are a conscript, you serve your time, you come back, you can have a family, your kids wouldn't get sold, you got a pension, you got benefits, you got all kind of stuff. It's not the same way during slavery. Okay. And then once you get past slavery, you got all types of systems that were put in place in the North and the South to keep segregation going on. The pettiest things from big things like your education, where you lived, being able to own property. You couldn't even, it was certain parts of the country where you couldn't even own property if you were not white. If you were non-white, they had on the deed of a home, this home shall not be sold to a person who was not of European ancestry. They put that right there in the deed, and that was legal documents way after slavery. So imagine what was going on during slavery. Now, some big brain is going to come and say, well, hey, ABL, they got benefits during slavery. They got free housing and free clothing and free food. Really? Really? Have you ever seen slave quarters? Like, not just the outside, not just something that you may see that's been renovated on a property you can go look at right now. I'm talking about real, like the average slave quarters. You're talking about dirt floors, like dirt, ground, like go outside and dig up the grass and just lay right there. Okay. So you're going to have all kind of vermin, not just roaches, rats, snakes, spiders, whatever you want inside of your so-called house. Okay. If it rains and floods, oh, well, you got any kind of property in there? Good luck. And try being able to get nutritious food. Do you know the life expectancy for a Black American was 33 years old in the year 1900? ABL, that's because of infant mortality. What was causing infants to die? Maybe if you lived in a shack with no floor in it, maybe if you lived in a shack with no floor and you had roaches and rats and spiders and snakes coming through, that might contribute to a little bit of unhealthy conditions that might lead to a baby dying, and it might lead to you dying at 25 years old. I mean, come on. And then the food, what are you eating? Chitlins, things we consider soul food right now, which are nothing but slave food, scraps from the master's table. I mean, come on. But you know what? Maybe you could live in the big house. As I close, I want to say this. I went to Atlanta recently. I go there all the time. I was at the Botanical Garden or the Atlanta History Museum, one of the two. I think it's a botanical garden. In the back of the property, there's a house you can tour. And it's an old house from back during that time. And on the main floor is beautiful, opulent things, wood carvings and just massively high ceilings, a beautiful place. Now you go down in the basement to the kitchen area, you can kind of see where they had the slaves working, or excuse me, the help, the house help, where they had them working. And then you go upstairs, and I think it might have been on the third floor, and it's these small rooms with not much in it, not much opulence, kind of some ramshackle stuff. It's like, what's this? Oh, this is where the help would live. Oh, okay. It's much different than downstairs, So if you got to live in the big house with master, it was good. But if not, hey, man, you just pretty much out there in the woods, getting it how you live. I'm going to tell you this, and then wrap it up. My family members, my older family members told me they remember when housing projects first came out, said they were beautiful, opulent, beautiful. Yeah, because if you come from living in outdoor shacks, yeah, stuff like this, I mean, you got indoor plumbing and you got brick, at least, brick veneer on the outside. Oh, that's nice. That's beautiful. Yeah, but people got to have that context before they compare military conscription, which I'm not really for, to chattel slavery. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think Robbie Suave made a good point about comparing military conscription to slavery in the USA? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I don't think it's a good comparison. And I think he has to understand when he says things like people are going to get offended. And I don't know the purpose of him doing this aside from going viral, because people are going to get offended and they're going to talk, and you're not going to have very many defenders on your side. I receive your point about military conscription, denying people of their bodily autonomy. But I mean, you can't just leave that right there. It's the same way as saying that the war was about slavery. Okay, but let's go a little bit deeper, shall we? Can we talk about how the people who fought the war were not necessarily worried about the rights of individual blacks? It wasn't about that. It was about the power struggle. It was about governance and the controlling of that institution, not of the people who fueled it. Like, we got to get down to the real situation and fully expand our ideas rather than just having one idea and running with it. When if you do something like that, people are going to say, hey, tell the full story, please. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.